Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tim. That's great for the audio people, Tim, that aren't watching the video. Tim took a bow there for anyone listening to the show.
I thought you said you hate the audio people.
No, right
you
now...
said we were no longer catering to them.
I said no such thing. I'll tell you what I do hate right now, Tim. I hate daylight savings because I actually technically had an hour extra last night because the clocks went back the way, but that doesn't matter to me because I'm up all night anyway. What matters to me is that it meant I had to be ready an hour earlier today, and I still had 3 movies to watch when I realized I had to be ready an hour earlier today. So I'm not happy about that. So that sucks.
We appreciate your service. You're a true hero.
I like to think so, Tom. The state of the world's not a great place. There's the sadness everywhere, especially when I have to watch a Leprechaun movie. More than that later in the week. But we're here. This is the final news sort of standalone episode of the show. This is obviously a horror movie podcast, and every week we talk about a horror movie. But normally the news is attached to a film, but because we have episodes every single day in October, it was like, well, where do we put the news? So we put it as its own thing. And after we're done with the news, Tim will tell us what he's been watching this week. Because despite my best efforts, I say my best efforts, I've been playing video games all week, so I didn't watch any extra movies. I know. Every year,
if there are horror games, I can let it go, but knowing you'll be dumb sci-fi crap.
Well, one of them was Bloodstained. Does that get me horror points?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll give you points for that.
Okay. But that and Outer Worlds was the other main thing, and obviously a lot of Tetris Effect because I play a lot of Tetris Effect. But
I know nothing about Outer Worlds other than people seem to be talking about it. It's a game I literally did not know existed until like 2 or 3 days ago.
It's kind of a more streamlined version of Fallout. In fact, the people who made it, Obsidian, made Fallout New Vegas, which is a lot of people's favorite one because they're better writers than Bethesda. But
all right, well, I mean, I'm already out. I've never played a Fallout game, so
you might like. Well, I wouldn't play Fallout now. Fallout's actually it's not aged well. Like the genre has evolved past what Fallout 3 and New Vegas did, but Outer Worlds has all the best. Why are we talking about Tim? We're here to talk about horror films, but so every year it's the same thing. I always get really in the mood to like really watch a lot of horror movies for October, and I'll watch like a ton in the week before October, and I'll watch a ton the first week of October. But by the time I get about halfway through October, it's like, I've not played any games in a while, or I've not, done this in a while, and
yeah. I mean, at this point for me, it is like. I am starting to feel like a little burnt out. Not that I, don't like horror movies anymore or anything, but I am starting to like kind of feel like, I haven't played Link's Awakening yet. I kind of would like to do that.
Yeah, it's never other movies. It's not like I'm watching other movies in my free time instead. It's video games or comic books. It's something else that comes in and says, "Hey, you want to do this right now, don't you?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I kind of do." So, but hey, and besides, I've been doing like 3 movies a week for this show, so it's not like I'm not watching any horror movies. It's just I've not got it in me to watch a 4th, 5th, and 6th movie a week, which is what it is. But anyway, that's why it's only going to be Tim that's talking about what he's watched this week, and I'm excited to see what he's watched. We'll find out. I'll make fun of them. I'll insult his taste and his manhood and everything. But speaking actually of stuff in the last week, we had our stream past Monday.
It's fun.
At the time of recording, anyway, this past Monday. By the time you see this, there'll have actually been a second Monday since then. But yeah, and that was a fun time. And if you don't know, that's going to be a monthly thing if we hit a goal on Patreon. So if you want that, go to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. But you can go check out the replay of it on YouTube and see if you enjoyed that. That was Streams After Midnight. It's on the Mail Fuzz TV YouTube page. So, without further ado, we'll get into the week's horror movie news, and we have a lighter horror film to talk about. A gateway horror film, you might say.
Okay.
I trust you grew up enjoying Hocus Pocus.
Oh, sure. Yeah. It's fun.
As did I. I think many did. I think as a cat person, the talking cat was a big selling point, quite frankly.
I do think it is Like I did enjoy it as a kid. I think there are some people though that are like, "Oh my god, this is my favorite movie of all time." Like some people like really really love it, which no like no shade thrown at them or anything, but it's I think it's just okay. But you know,
Hmm. So there's been a bit of
Doug
a.
Jones' first movie, I believe.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah,
There's been
with his
a
zombie.
there's been a sort of variety of like potential sequels or returns of the franchise. I mean, it's only had one movie, so I mean it's not really a franchise yet. But there was meant to be a Hocus Pocus 2: Rise of the Elder Witch a few years ago, which was going to have a witch hunter and a single witch, and then there was going to be a TV remake at one point in the Disney Channel with a new cast. Apparently, this article from Bloody Disgusting refers to that as "this woke Midler from her grave," who shared her displeasure. Betty Midler's old, apparently. I guess is what they said. But apparently, for HBO Max, we're looking at a potential sequel that might bring back the cast. So they're hoping to bring back all three witches for Hocus Pocus 2. Jen D'Angelo, who served as the writer and co-producer on Workaholics, has been hired to write the script. Workaholics, I believe, is a TV show.
Yeah.
But yeah, so D'Angelo apparently has been given a brief to, her brief for the script is to find a way to bring back the original cast, which is Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Kathy Najimy. And when I say bring back, what they mean is like bring them back, the characters in the story.
Sure, yeah.
It's not her job to go and convince the actors to come back and be
Although
in the
that'd
movie.
be kind of a fun movie.
What, just a movie about trying to get the actors back?
Yeah, like a meta movie about someone trying to get a bunch of old actors back to make probably be a pretty crappy 20-year later sequel.
It was. I mean, Joe, what they should do for this, honestly, is they should realise that all the fans of this are now at least 30 years old. So it should be a hard R, extreme, brutal movie for the people who were kids when the first one came out.
Yeah. It should be directed by Robert Eggers.
Is it secretly also a sequel to The Witch?
Yeah.
Is this where Hocus Pocus and The Witch turn out to be in the same continuity? All right.
Exactly.
I can get on board with that.
No, I mean, like you said, this was fun as a kid. I don't know, a sequel wouldn't get me super excited. I believe Mick Garris either wrote or directed the first movie.
Oh, actually, can I just correct something? I said HBO Max. What I meant to say is Disney Plus because this is a Disney thing.
Oh, okay.
I'm a
That
silly
makes sense,
sausage. Yeah, I said the wrong service. So Disney Plus.
But yeah, so it's but I might even be a little more excited though if they were mentioning Mick Garris's name. But I don't know. Again, like these sequels, so far down the line, don't really interest me that much. It's just kind of a blatant nostalgia grab. Like
every so often, there's one that does work. I mean, I think the fourth Rambo worked quite well, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Not heard good things about the fifth one, admittedly, but the fourth one apparently worked quite well.
Yeah, like I don't think it's unheard of that it would potentially be like a bad movie, but it's it's not something that necessarily floats my boat.
Yeah, I wouldn't count Mad Max Fury Road though, because that was more of a reboot than it was a sequel. It wasn't like they brought Mel Gibson back, 20 years later for that.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff like that like, and especially with stuff that's like a franchise, it makes more sense. But this is just like this was a one and done movie. It's not like especially like this would be more in like the comedy genre, I think, and I feel like comedy sequels, especially so far down the line, are usually abysmal. Like I don't know, like comedy sequels in general are kind of a weird thing because I think you either end up like the only options you have are to be like do something different, and then people get mad because like, oh well, this isn't like the same kind of movie from before, or you just do like the same jokes again, and then people are like, well, this is just the same thing. Like I don't see what the point of this is. So I don't know. I feel like comedy sequels are usually pretty bad on the whole, and then on top of that, a sequel that's like 20-ish years down the line is not great either. But I mean, again though, if they have a really good idea and they get good people involved, it could potentially be good. I don't want to poo-poo it right away, but there's nothing about it that screams like, oh man, this is awesome, I can't wait. Okay.
I've got a counterpoint to your comedy sequels statement.
Sure.
I was trying. I took me a while to think of one, admittedly, but
Yeah.
Adam's Family Values.
All right, that's a good one. I'll give you that one.
It's better than the original, so
Yeah.
I'm taking that point. I'm taking that point.
Yeah. Again, it's not like I don't think it's impossible to do a good one, but I just think on the whole, like comedy sequels are usually not the best.
And depending on your opinion, several of the Police Academy sequels might have.
I've never seen them, so I can't comment.
I grew up watching that franchise. They're not good, but the first one's not my favorite though.
Mhm.
Again, I think
Sure.
people who saw the first one when it came out all hate the sequels because they think all the sequels just got silly. But because I grew up with them as a kid, I feel like all my favorites are the dumb sequels. But that's neither here nor there. If you count Gremlins 2, which is a bit of a murky one because it was kind of the first one was more of a horror with a bit of comedy. The second one was just full on satire comedy.
Yeah.
And that said though, to your point, people did kind of tear that apart at the time. Everyone said that was a bad sequel at the time, and I feel like it's only decades later that everyone's went, no, that was actually quite a good fun sequel because it did something different. Like
Yeah.
But yeah, comedy sequels are bad. That's why Tim had one good episode of this show and has been terrible ever since because he can't repeat that success.
Well, I mean, if that's the case, maybe I should call it quits.
I will leave it up to the audience to decide which episode that was. That was the good one. Send them on a search back.
And just whatever video has the least amount of people telling us to F off.
Well, definitely not Green Inferno then.
Yeah.
Can say that for sure. So that's Hocus Pocus 2. Next up, Neil Blomkamp has got a horror movie in the works, apparently. This is interesting because Neil Blomkamp, of course, has been more linked to science fiction. Now, admittedly, this is still got a bit of sci-fi in it. This is definitely a sci-fi horror movie, but he did District 9, which is a goddamn modern masterpiece as far as I'm concerned.
Mhm.
Then he also did Elysium, which I think looked good, but was kind of derivative and not as impressive in most ways. And I did Chappie, which again I thought looked good, and I liked it more than most people. I think I liked the way his sci-fi looks enough that I kind of get into those two. Even neither of them was anywhere close to District 9. Don't get me wrong, like they are a big step down from that. But I don't hate them. People hate those movies. I think they're watchable.
I haven't seen Elysium, but Chappie sucks, dude. Come on. Chappie's real bad.
Better than all the Leprechaun movies, I'll say that much.
Oh, yeah, you wish.
I don't wish, it just is. It's a fact. It's written in blood, you Philistine. Anyway, so Neil Blomkamp, of course, this has been a bit of a rough journey, actually, because as someone who loved District 9, and obviously I acknowledge the flaws in the follow-up movies, but I love District 9. So when he was announced to do an Alien sequel that actually ignored 3 and so on, and it was like, no, he's taking the Aliens, because I think his problem is not as a director. I think his movies are all very well directed. I think the problem is that he's writing these scripts, and the scripts for the last 2 movies weren't particularly hot. I think that the idea of giving him a franchise like that that's already has its rules sort of laid out is kind of exciting. It's kind of tantalizing, right? Yeah. But he dropped out of that because Ridley Scott had to make Alien Covenant,
so
which
annoying.
is a knife to the heart. All right, and then that sucks. And well, not quite as exciting as doing an Alien sequel. Him doing a direct sequel to RoboCop was also pretty like, oh, okay, all right, cool. I get to that. And then he left that too because of reasons. So we were left with this place where Neil Blomkamp was left without a franchise, and now we have news of what he's doing next. So we found out a little while ago that he was leaving RoboCop, but he is doing a film called Inferno, and it is not a remake of the Dario Argento film, just in case your mind was jumping there, because it might have done. Taylor Kitsch is going to star in it, and it is.
Love Kitsch.
Yeah, I mean, he's a bit bland, but I mean. I don't think he's unsalvageable as an actor. Kedge will play a cop who is called in to investigate a seemingly ordinary murder in the New Mexico desert. The arrival of the FBI confirms the suspicions that something bigger, perhaps extraterrestrial, is at play. The hunt for the killer puts him face to face with a humanoid beast who will stop at nothing to exterminate the one witness to the crime. So we have a humanoid alien by the sounds of it.
Cool. That sounds fun.
Murdering people. So the production will start in early 2020. So presumably this will be a sort of early to mid 2021 release. maybe late 2020. Who knows? Sometimes these movies can be churned out a bit quicker than that. But yeah. So this is nowhere near exciting as an Aliens sequel, a RoboCop sequel by Blomkamp, and it's obviously I prefer original ideas over sequels as a whole. But there's something about Blomkamp being attached to either of those franchises that was really exciting. But
I think it's more for me. I think it's just exciting to know that those franchises are going to continue in the hands of a good director. I don't think it necessarily like I like Blomkamp, but I think the more exciting news is just like, oh, a good director is doing one of these franchises, which I actually like the idea of him doing an original movie, which the premise sounds pretty cool. So I'm definitely intrigued by this.
And maybe diverting a bit more over to horror movies, maybe just the sort of the fresh thing he needs, because obviously his last 3 films were all not the exact same subject, because obviously Chappie was a robot movie and Different Name was an aliens movie, but they were all science fiction, like sort of hard sci-fi, or maybe not hard sci-fi, but they were all deep in the sci-fi well. Whereas this sounds like it's going for more of a horror tone, and maybe that'll a bit of creative bit of creative shake up for him, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
And maybe I think the hope then would be if this does well and gives him like a little bit more clout, or because obviously he's like already like a a known person, but the last couple of movies haven't really set the world on fire. So if this is something that kind of puts him over the top a little bit, maybe he'll have a little more room to work on one of those kind of franchises or something.
Yeah. Obviously Aliens was just a case of Ridley Scott was flexing his muscle.
Yeah.
RoboCop, it sounds like it may have been creative differences, and maybe that's an example where some clout would have came in handy to like sort of see him through and get his way essentially. But anyway, let's move on. Just a sort of quick release date move here. Michael Rooker's film Monster Problems, which has Dylan O'Brien in it, as well as Ariana Greenblatt and Jessica Henwick. Jessica Henwick was on Iron Fist. She was Colleen, I think her name was in that.
I didn't watch it, so.
Yeah, but you've read Iron Fist comics. I assume she's a character from the books.
Yeah, Colleen Wing is a character. From that. It's one of the Daughters of the Dragon, usually teamed up with Misty Knight. But
yes. People were hoping for a spin-off with the Misty Knight from Luke Cage and Colleen from Iron Fist. Never happened. But...
Yeah, that would have been cool. Well, I mean, maybe not as a Netflix show, because the Netflix shows suck. But if they found a better way to do it, sure.
Yeah, so anyway, this film, Monster Problems, this is the Rooker plays Clyde, an expert hunter who teaches Joel Dawson how to survive the monster apocalypse. This was meant to come out on 6th of March 2020. It's been pushed back a month or so to April 17th, 2020. So, just a quick thing there. And moving on, and speaking of release dates, James Wan's film, Malignant, which is we found out recently was a giallo film, much to Tim's ironclad news that it was a werewolf movie.
I think it still could be a werewolf movie. It could be a werewolf giallo movie. We don't know.
Does such a thing even exist?
It does now.
So anyway, we've got a release date for this. It's coming out on August 14th, 2020.
Ooh. So we'll probably do that for the show.
What, James Wan's new horror film? Yeah, I think we'll maybe do that for the show, yeah. Maybe we'll find time to squeeze that in. God damn.
Yeah.
Moving on, I got a couple of casting things here or there. Michelle Monaghan has been added to the Craft remake. So she's also we've got Kelly Spaney, who was in Pacific Rim Uprising, Gideon Adlin, who's in The Society, Lovey Simone, who's in Sella and the Spades, I never heard of that, and Zoe Luna, who's in 15, a Quinceanera Story. Although I assume that I've not heard of that, but I assume that's because that's not an English speaking thing that I would have heard of. It sounds like it's a foreign thingamajig. But they're keeping a
Well,
roll
I
of the
mean,
wraps. But
either way, it doesn't sound like the kind of movies we usually cover.
true. So the cast obviously also already had David Duchovny, Nicholas
Hell yeah.
Galitzine, and Gillian Gray. And the description here is just still just the plot of the first movie, so we don't really know what they're changing yet. But the Craft remake is in full swing, and they have a cast. So
Good thing they found a cast.
usually a good, well, not a start, but it's usually a good like step 3 to making a movie. Christopher Landon's next film, which if you remember is the body swapping movie with Vince Vaughn, has also added some cast. They've added Alan Ruck, who you might know from Spin City. He had a small role in Speed. He was on the first season of the Exorcist TV show. He's been around for a long time. Yeah, in fact, most people probably know him from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, actually. That's probably his most famous thing.
Okay.
But yeah, he's
the best friend in Ferris Bueller.
Yeah, he's been added to the
Okay.
cast of this movie, which doesn't have a name yet, which is why I'm just referring to it as the Christopher Landon body swap movie. Christopher Landon being the director of Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to You. But we also have Katie Finneran's been added to the cast, as well as Celeste O'Connor, and who also from Sell It and the Spades. That was one of the things that was mentioned in the last article, where that just came from. Misha Osherovich from Nosferatu. That's the TV show Nosferatu. And
There's a TV show, Nosferatu?
yeah, the Joe Hill one, NOS 4A2.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like Nosferatu, like, you know, the whatchamacallit,
The movies, but like,
yeah.
but I mean that's how you pronounce that show title, right? Nosferatu.
Sure, but if I don't know you're talking about that specific thing, it sounds weird.
Okay. So they've been added to the cast of that movie. Cool. And then speaking of cast, Terrifier 2. Obviously, we just did Terrifier 1 earlier in the month for Octoberthon, and actually quite enjoyed it for what it was. It was a nice, grisly little slasher movie. So Art the Clown's coming back for Terrifier 2. That's not the news. Obviously, he was going to be back. But the news, and this is a bit of a horror. I don't want to say royalty. That seems a bit high in the hierarchy for this. But Felissa Rose from Sleepaway Camp has been added to the cast of Terrifier 2.
That's cool.
And somehow we've not done Sleepaway Camp yet. You know what? Next Octoberthon, Sleepaway Camp's franchise is happening. Damn it. So yeah, so she's all excited, and that's happening.
That's cool.
We have a description here, which I don't think really means that much for a movie like this, but I'll mention it anyway. After being resurrected by a sinister entity, Art the Clown returns to Miles County, where he must hunt down and destroy a teenage girl and her younger brother on Halloween. There you go. So
cool.
And
that sounds
yes,
like more fun.
and they're intending an October 2020 release date, which I would expected. Given that they've been adding cast to it right now, I feel like October next year is when I expect this to come out. Because again, it's set in Halloween, as was the first one, so that should hopefully be a nice Octoberthon movie next year.
Yeah.
So that's good. So this next one means a lot to me, because I was worried that this was kind of done and not going to happen. But Robert Eggers did an interview this week and is basically talking about why he's so into doing Nosferatu. Just to bring that name back up again. But Nosferatu is something that he was rumoured to be doing after The Witch. He did Lighthouse instead. And we found out his next movie last week was something else again. And I was worried that maybe Nosferatu is not going to happen, because I was really looking forward to him doing that. But no, he was talking just this week, after that last announcement, that he still wants to do Nosferatu. And he even says in this interview that it'll probably be his most mainstream movie. It'll be more mainstream than The Witch. It'll definitely be more mainstream than The Lighthouse, which is, from everything I've heard, The Lighthouse is the most like art house indie. The mainstream audience are going to hate this and think it's boring dreck. So... and he was saying how he doesn't really want to do a lot of super mainstream stuff, but Nosferatu will definitely be the most mainstream thing he does. And he talks about why he loves the character and why he's excited about it and all the rest of it. So I just wanted to bring that up because I was looking forward to it. There's a lot there if you go and read the article.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, because I was a little bit worried about the same thing since, because after The Witch, we kind of thought that was going to be his next movie. And then, I did The Lighthouse instead. And then, he announced his next movie. It was like this Viking movie and stuff, which, those are all really cool. But once it kind of keeps getting pushed back more and more, it does make it like, oh man, is this not going to happen? But yeah, I really, really hope that does come out eventually.
They actually asked them if William Dafoe could end up playing Nosferatu, which would be funny because he played kind
Max
of Nosferatu,
Schreck.
yeah,
Yeah.
in the what's the name of that movie?
In the Shadow of the Vampire.
Yeah, the movie about making Nosferatu. So that'd be kind of interesting. And William Dafoe's in his next movie as well, so he clearly is building a repertoire with the man. So wouldn't shock me. Wouldn't shock me. So I did want to mention that. Next up, Shudder has acquired the rights to a film here. It's called The Beach House.
Okay.
Directed by Jeffrey A. Brown. Apparently, Bloody Disgusting have pointed out here they've already given it a 4-star review, so I mean, they seem to like it. It's a directorial debut. It's a powerful, emotional throwback to 50s sci-fi that presents a stunning glimpse of parasitic invasion. This review apparently said. So yeah, it's going to premiere in Shudder next year. Always nice to see Shudder getting a bunch of original films like this that might not, because obviously they get a lot of cheap stuff that just kind of suck. So it's nice when they get something that might actually, be above and beyond that. Like Tigers Are Not Afraid, or even though that debatably is not really Shudder material, but
yeah, I mean, I think they have like a few, like, they have like a lot of general, like, okay, this is just whatever kind of thing. But every now and again, they'll get big things like, Mandy or, Tigers Are Not Afraid, or like that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's nice to see them getting like stuff with like a little more weight behind them. But that sounds cool. We won't do it on the show because it's clearly a sci-fi movie, like that review says. But could be cool.
It could be sci-fi horror. I mean, this is Bloody Disgusting. They're a horror movie website. In the beach house, hoping to reunite their relationship, Emily, played by Liana Liberato, and Randall, played by Noah Legros. So I think this may actually be a foreign film, just from the sounds of these names, but I could be wrong. Arrive at their weekend getaway only to discover a peculiar older couple already staying there. They all agree to share the home after an indulgent night of partying and wake up to a living nightmare of apocalyptic proportions. So it's like the adult version of The Visit. They find an old couple and then, oh no, that's scary.
Yeah, I mean, I it could be really cool. Again, if it's getting a lot of rave reviews and stuff, that's definitely one to keep on the radar.
No, I'm intrigued. It could just I'm intrigued. That's all I'll say. That's The Beach House. So it's coming next year from Shudder. So definitely something we'll be looking at when it hits. Next up, we're going to talk about a film called Seance, which is from Dark Castle Entertainment. It is the directorial debut of Simon Barrett, who worked. You know who this is?
No.
Okay.
I'm glad to see young talent getting a shot at the big time.
Well, you may have heard of him because he worked on some scripts before. He worked on the script for The Guest, You're Next, Blair Witch, all of Adam Wingard's, well, not all of them, but most of Adam Wingard's movies. He directed a segment in both VHS and VHS2. So he's dabbled a little bit in directing. He's done a lot of writing, and this is his directorial debut. It's set in an all-girls boarding school haunted by a vengeful spirit. It'll star Suki Waterhouse. She was in Into the Dark's New Year, New You, and Assassination Nation. I kind of recognize her from that, actually. I'm looking at the photo. She'll play Camille, a young woman who arrives at the Fairfield Academy following one of the students' untimely and violent deaths. So, yeah, it's interesting. Is he any good as a director? I mean, obviously he's worked in scripts for some good movies, but will this translate to a good first outing? Hard to say. It could go either way. But
that's a little intriguing. And then I do think VHS and VHS2 do have some good segments. So I'm not sure which ones he did, but it's possible he could have done some of the better ones.
It says for VHS2 he did the wraparound. Was the wraparound any good? I don't remember. I'll be honest. I don't remember if I've even seen VHS2. I've definitely seen the first one, but
yeah, I've definitely seen. Actually, I've seen all three. I think there's only three. Um, don't remember what the wraparound one was for the second one. Uh, yeah, I can't even think.
Ah, well. Anyway, so that's Seance, Sentinel Girls Boarding School, Vengeful Spirit. So look forward to that. So next up, Bill Moseley is going to play an immortal child-eating clown in a film by director Hainsey Whitmore. Oh, I said that sentence weird. In a film by Hainsey Whitmore, the film's called Crepitus or Crepitus. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Crepitus. Would that be Crepitus or Crepitus?
I want to say it sounds like Crepitus, but I feel like Crepitus sounds more like.
Well, that's my thing. Yeah, based on just the letters, I would say Crepitus, but because it's a horror movie, I'm thinking maybe it is Crepitus. But so that's now got a release date. It's coming out this year. It's cause it's already been made.
This year?
Yeah, it's coming out on VOD on December 13th.
Wow.
So, although it's going to be it's going to have a very, very limited theater release on November 1st. It's going to be on 10 screens nationwide on November 1st.
Well, maybe I'll make it out to the cinema for what sounds like a very, very original idea. A immortal child-eating clown. Cool. I have not seen that ever before.
Yeah, but that last movie about that wasn't that good, so maybe this will be better.
Fair.
Here's the full description. 17-year-old Elizabeth and her younger sister Sam are thrust into circumstances more terrifying than life with their abusive, drunken mother when they are forced to move into their deceased grandfather's house. Frightened beyond belief, they are forced to learn horrible things about their family history. Never mind the ghosts in the house, there is something far worse that takes an interest in them. A cannibalistic clown named Crepitus.
The hell? What is going on in this movie? There's a immortal child eating clown plus ghosts plus like family drama. It sounds pretty stacked.
This will either be amazing or terrible, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure which. So
right.
We'll see.
I guess I mean, to be fair, I'm at least intrigued.
Yeah. Maybe we'll squeeze that. I mean, that's right in Christmas season though, so that may be a January review for us. But we'll probably, unless the trailer or whatever just looks like absolute garbage, which
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes we should have a threshold. But then again, people do love us doing our worst 10 of the year. We can't do a worst 10 if we don't try some of this shit. So
that's true.
The conflictions we have. Next up, Blumhouse are at it again. They are going to be remaking a 1987 thriller. So this was Curtis Hanson, who directed LA Confidential, directed a film called The Bedroom Window in 1987. It was an adaptation of Anne Holden's novel The Witnesses. That stars Steve Guttenberg, of all people, with Elizabeth McGovern. I mentioned Police Academy earlier. Somehow, it's all come full circle. Steve Guttenberg's been brought up. So, yes, Blumhouse is teaming with Studio Canal and filmmaker Ben Young to remake the film. So Young, who's making this, did Hounds of Love, which I've almost watched on Shudder a couple of times, and I've heard some pretty extreme things. That it's an extreme movie. I don't know if it's because it's really violent, because it's really depressing. I'm not sure which. I have a very vague understanding of Young Hounds of Love, but that was the one thing I was told when I considered watching it on a stream, is that it's like, oh geez, maybe prepare yourself for that. So the original film follows a man who beds his boss's wife. During the tryst, she observes him from his bedroom window, a violent attack on a young woman. He goes to the police on his lover's behalf to report a crime he didn't actually witness. Soon he is a suspect and potential target for the attacker.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting plot. Yeah, basically he can't admit that she was there, so he has to pretend that he saw it, and that maybe those twists and turns, maybe she's setting him up, or maybe, Yeah.
The only part of the news I don't like is I like Blumhouse a lot. they I'm not sure what the ratio to like hits and misses and stuff are, but I don't want them to turn into like just like a remake studio.
Oh,
Like
sure.
I like that because it seems like all the news lately has been a lot of remake stuff. But I mean, at least this one though, it does sound like a movie that is not like a hugely known or anything, which it might work a little bit more in its favor since it doesn't really has not a lot of like preset notions and stuff in people's minds and whatnot.
Yes. God damn it! Why is this not in? Oh, here we go. I was going to check since you brought up the like they're doing a lot of remakes, they're doing a lot of other stuff. I just wanted to look at like this year, 2019. So this is what they brought out in 2019. And to be fair, from the quick glance, it doesn't look like a lot of remakes or anything. We got Glass, which is a sequel. Happy Birthday to You, which is a sequel. Mercy Black, Stockholm, Thriller, Ma, Don't Let Go, Bloodline, Prey, Sweet. How have I not heard of half of these? Like we we cover horror movies, Tim. Why have we not heard of most of these? Bloodline, Prey, Sweetheart, The Gallows Act 2. Oh god, we have to do that soon. It just came out, and then they've still got Adopt a High, which is a drama, admittedly, and then Black Christmas. So I mean, Black Christmas is actually the only one out of that whole list, I think, that is.
I don't know. It just feels like a lot of the. I guess maybe more of the stuff that comes out it might be original stuff, but it feels like all the big news you hear from them is usually a lot of remake stuff, like The Craft, Black Christmas. I don't know if you kind of count Halloween. I guess it's not a remake; it's more of like a rebootish, sequelish kind of thing.
I mean, but at the very least, in this same news episode, we've had that Christopher Landon body swapping movie, which sounds really cool and interesting. So, there's a lot of stuff here. I guess they just I guess they just the remake stuff, because it's all names that we know, tends to get a lot more buzz.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Not that we'd ever heard of The Bedroom Window, but it does. I mean, it does sound interesting, actually. I kind of like that premise. Maybe, I mean, the original film doesn't sound like it's a horror movie per se, but given that this is Blumhouse, I feel like the new one will probably veer more towards horror. That's my guess.
Yeah, like it sounds a little bit more like drama/thriller, but maybe they'll spice it up and get it a little more horror centric. So
just a quick fun thing here, Walmart.
I think I saw this.
So Satanic Panic came out on your Blu-ray and your DVDs and whatnot. We reviewed it about a month ago, so you can go check out our discussion on that. Basically, Walmart weren't comfortable with the word satanic, so if you buy the Blu-ray in Walmart, you get just Panic. And there's a photo here in the article of the cover, and it literally just says Panic in the font at the top. It doesn't. Maybe it's only in the slipcover. Maybe if you take the slipcover off, the actual case will say Satanic Panic. But
sure,
that's pretty funny.
It's. I always forget like Walmart exists because we really don't have them like out here, or at least there's not that many in LA. Like surprisingly, but so I was like. It always seems weird to me when I see stories like this. I'm like, oh, people are still buying stuff at Walmart. I guess it's probably like huge. A lot of other places, but it seems like such a weird place to buy horror movies.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I've never heard of a store getting a special title for a movie before.
Yeah.
So. Neat little random bit of news. So we'll wrap up then with a trailer, not for a movie admittedly, but I still felt this was worth mentioning at the very least, which is a new Hulu series that's coming on it. In fact, it's actually already out. It came out, the premiered the first episode on October 25th, but the trailer came out this past week, and I felt it was worth mentioning just because it's called Zomboat. It's about a group of people escaping a zombie apocalypse on a boat. And it's a British series, apparently, just based on all the accents as I was watching it. And I will admit, I chuckled at the end of the trailer when someone's saying, hey, we're quicker than them. Well, barely quicker, but we're quicker. It's hard to look at a horror comedy or a zombie comedy these days and not feel a little bit tired. It's especially hard not to look at a British zombie comedy and not think of Shaun of the Dead. So, I don't know. What did you think of the trailer, Timmy?
I was not into it. It's a very short trailer,
Hmm.
so
It's like a minute or
um,
so. Yeah, it's not long.
yeah, like I feel like a little bad judging it because it could totally there could be like a lot of stuff that we're not seeing that might make it a little more interesting, but um, yeah, it just feels like why are we doing this? Like I feel like we've hit max like zombie comedies and everything, but like I don't know, I'm still surprised. Like I mentioned earlier in the month, I wasn't really hot on the trailer for Little Monsters and ended up liking that quite a bit. So maybe if I actually check this out,
I mean,
it'll
I think even from the trailer that had its own spin on it, because it was like, oh,
sure, yeah,
we're having to like water this down and like sugarcoat it for all these like 6-year-olds, and
yeah.
that's where the comedy comes from. Um,
And also it's a 90-minute movie, so it doesn't like
mm.
there's not
Well,
it's easy to not wear out a premise in that time.
I thought this was a movie until at the end it said series premiere. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, it's a TV show. Okay, fair enough.
Also, and like I'm sure that they will think of interesting stuff to do, but like it doesn't seem like there's that much threat if you're in a boat. Like obviously they're gonna and there's gonna be points where they're gonna have to get off to like get like supplies or something, or move stuff out of the way if they have to like cross something like so I'm sure that's where the interesting stuff will come in. But I mean, right off the bat though, it kind of seems like yeah, that's it's not like there's that much danger. Like zombies can't like jump in the water and swim up the boat.
Don't question it. Just you know, Zomboat.
Yeah. And I feel like so much like zombie comedy stuff is like how much of it is um like we this is a story we need to tell versus like, oh, we thought of the name first and then like work back from there.
Yeah. It's like zomboats. Okay, excellent.
Yeah,
Same with Night of the Living Dead. You feel like that,
exactly.
and
Yeah.
that's not, and that wasn't a bad movie necessarily. It wasn't particularly
Sure, yeah,
memorable, but it was okay.
it's
Um,
all right. Yeah,
but like they clearly thought of that title, or maybe they did.
yeah,
Maybe they just had this idea for this weird like zombie comedy that focused on this kind of. It's almost like a movie focusing on like you almost feel like what's her face from Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. I almost felt like it was like a
oh yeah.
role written for her, but they just had someone else
Yeah.
play her. And I thought the actress was fine in it for the record. But um, anyway, so that was the last thing on the news, which will lead us to Tim telling us what he has been watching
Okay.
for Octoberthon. Not for
Oh,
review, of course, just for extra
sure.
things.
Do you want me to hit the big ones first, or should I lead up to that?
Yeah, I guess the big ones. Blow your load.
All right.
Gone.
Well, I went out and I saw Lighthouse yesterday.
Oh.
So, I mean, I don't know. Do you want like obviously I'm not gonna tell any spoilers, but do you want to know like anything? Like I, I don't know how much I should say here.
Um. Well, we're definitely going to review this, so
Yeah.
I feel like we simply acknowledge this and move on.
I'll tell you what. I will say this. I'll say never have I seen a more accurate depiction of our relationship in a movie. That's what I'll say about it.
I'll say this though. I did see an interview quote this week from Eggers that said seagulls were better to work with than goats,
Yeah.
which I thought was funny. Um, but
Yeah. So I have strong opinions about the movie, but I guess I'll leave it at that until we do our review. So I had an interesting double feature because I saw that yesterday, and then I also saw a little movie called Verotica, which I forget if I told you about this before, if we had talked about it.
is this like people who have vertigo but they get horny while they've got vertigo, so it's
No,
called verotica? No.
no. Honestly, there's no justification for the name whatsoever.
Okay.
But so, do you know who Glenn Danzig is?
The name sounds familiar, but
He's a musician. He was in the Misfits, and then I think he's done some solo stuff. But
okay.
I think he's also supposed to be like a notorious asshole. But so this is his directorial debut, which it's a horror anthology movie that I guess is based off a comic book line that he did. And the reason why I was interested in this because it had a premiere in LA, I think like maybe like a month or two back. which I sadly was not able to attend. But from what I heard about everyone that did go ahead and see it, they were saying that it was a laugh riot. Like, I guess when they premiered it, the audience was dying, and then afterwards, Glenn Danzig did a Q&A. Like, I think the first thing he said was like, "It's not a comedy." Like, he was very pissed off. But yeah, I mean, we're definitely gonna have to do this whenever it's available, like on VOD or whatever. This is something else. People were calling it the room of horror movies, which usually that's like, I feel like you hear that get tossed around a lot, but I don't know if I would necessarily disagree with that assessment.
I mean, horror movies, more than any other genre, does have a lot of things that would be contenders for the room
Yeah.
of horror movies. But that's interesting.
Yeah, this is like what I love in a bad movie. It's just a completely inept director with like just absolutely no idea how to make a movie. Again, I don't want to give like too much away, so we'll save it for like a specific review. But there was just like one scene where like every scene just goes on for so long. Like there's this one scene where there's like ladies like looking at herself in a mirror, and like the audience was dying because it was just going on for so goddamn long. And every time you think it's gonna cut, like the camera will zoom in, and you're like, all right, so it's gonna cut now, and then it'll like zoom back out, and she'll still be looking at herself in the mirror. Like, let me just, again, I don't want to give too much away, but let me just give you kind of the premise of like the first story, because it goes in some crazy places, and this is literally like the first 2-3-ish like minutes of the movie. But just to kind of give you the kind of idea like what you're in for this movie, it starts with, and obviously if you don't want spoilers, like skip ahead like 2 minutes or whatever, but it starts with this woman and this going down on this guy, even though he still has his pants on, but whatever.
He's got a zipper. You can get it out.
There's nothing. There's nothing coming out there, because she stands up and like his pants are still fully on and zipped up. But whatever, that's fine. And then he keeps trying to take her shirt off, and she keeps saying no, no, and he's like, I don't care, and like he takes her shirt off to reveal her breasts, and instead of nipples, she has 2 eyeballs. So of course the man is disgusted, and he gets up and leave. And the woman, is like, "Oh, not again," and she starts crying. And then it pans down, and it shows the eyeball on her breast start crying, and a teardrop falls from her eye boob and lands on an albino spider, who then turns into a giant spider creature, and it gets even crazier from there. But the stories are nonsensical, the acting's horrible, the directing is like, it feels like if you gave someone in their 40s or 50s like a camera for the first time, and they're like just figuring out the camera, like there's just all these like zooms in, like they just like zoom in, like, whoa, this is cool. And so like it is so bad. I think the only question is going to be is like, is this going to be a Patreon one, or is this too good, like should it be on the main feed? But that's gonna be a fun one to do.
I think we have to get to the Fanatic before we get to that, because that's available now. But
true. Okay.
Or it's about to be on Prime, I believe, is the Fanatic, which isn't a horror movie, but it feels like it's going to be bad enough that it's worth doing, at least for patrons. So
yeah, close enough. Yeah. So those were like my 2 big watches. I'll just kind of go through some of the other stuff I checked out. So I watched just like some random stuff on like Prime. Nothing too notable. Like I watched like The Barn, Blackwater Vampire, Candyman 3, Day of the Dead, which, oof, that was a rough one. Slugs I watched, which was actually pretty good. That's like a cheesy like 80s movie about killer radioactive slugs. What's great about it is like obviously like slugs are so like slow and everything, so it's kind of fun just seeing like the ways people would it would just amount to like someone having to fall into the slugs.
Mm.
So it's just like a lot of like people just touching something you can't see and be like, oh, something bit me, and then they fall down and there's a bunch of slugs. But that was kind of cool. I watched.
That's been on my radar for a while, actually. Slugs.
Yeah, it's a fun one. I rewatched some good things like The Thing. Obviously, you know, classic.
Uh-huh.
I watched Critters Attack. It's kind of fun. It's like a sci-fi Critters movie, but it's not the best, but it wasn't horrible. And I haven't really been giving consistent updates, but I will give a Creep Show update because I did catch up on all the episodes. I was like 2 behind last week, but I think I was a little positive when I mentioned watching like the first 1 or 2 episodes.
Oh
but
no!
Jeez, it takes such a nosedive. It is. I hate to say it, but it's bad. It's real bad.
Oh.
Like episode 3. Again, like the first 2 episodes, like you can tell that it's like low budget and everything, but I think it was still interesting, and they were doing some cool stuff and had some cool special effects and like good actors and everything. So I was fairly positive. Episode 3, yikes! It's the stories get less and less interesting. The production value gets worse and worse. And yeah, just now I'm gonna like finish it till the end because I don't think there's that many episodes left, and I'm at least curious. But man, such a drop off. Real shame.
Oh dear. Oh dear. First Creep Show 3, and now the TV shows. A dagger to the heart.
Yeah. I feel like they probably should have just done like another Creep Show movie, because really if they just took those first 2 episodes and then maybe put a little bit more time and budget into them, it could have been really cool. But instead now you have a TV show which more than half of it is bad at this point. But who knows? Maybe they saved like a good one for last. So I'm holding out hope, but it's hard.
Oh well, the struggle is real. The struggle is real.
Yeah. And I've had a busy week, so I haven't watched it yet. But I probably will get to Castle Rock soon.
Oh, did the season 2 start?
Season 2. Yeah, I think it just started this week.
Yeah, I mean, we did season 1 on the channel. We reviewed it, but the ending left such a bad taste in my mouth that I have to admit, I'm not. I was not really paying attention to season 2 news. I'm
a little more. I'm intrigued. I don't think season 1 was perfect, but I did like it for the most part. And then, I don't know. Again, I haven't like read any full reviews, but from like the headlines of some reviews I've seen, it doesn't sound like season 2 is that good. But I don't know, I'm holding out hope. So I'll at least give it a watch.
Yes, the year of terrible Stephen King adaptations continues.
Still holding out for Dr. Sleep. That's the one thing that is giving me hope.
But yeah, that'll basically wrap up then this Octoberthon special news movie update episode, whatever you want to call these things. This is the final one of the month. Obviously today, the same day today, you can find the final Wishmaster 4 on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. Obviously every month on Patreon, Screams After Midnight has an exclusive bonus episode for everyone. But for the Octoberthon we had 4. We had the entire Wishmaster franchise going 1 per week. So the 4th one will be out today. So thank you very much. Go check out Patreon if you want to support us and support everything we do and keep all the content coming. You can also support us by rating the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars. More people will find us that way. It'll spread to more and more people like a nice scary disease. And a good scary disease. But you can go do that. You can rate, you can subscribe, you can comment, you can ding the bell on YouTube to make sure you get notifications. But that is pretty much us. Get us on Twitter at Screams Midnight as well for updates and random jokes and whatever else Tim happens to put on there. When I'm not paying attention, then I have to go in and fix his mess. But that's us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We also appreciate you to keep watching scary movies, guys, and we will see you next time.